Well, it helps if you have your little clicker turned on. So perhaps when we hear the word mandala or mandala, or you're thinking of Tibetan sand paintings, which this is a figure that represents the universe. The word itself comes from the Sanskrit word for circle, meaning both the center and the circumference. The circle is understood as an archetype, a central human symbol for wholeness and hope. We find them in nature, our moon and our sun. We live on one. And while our human ancestors drew them, we can only guess at the meaning they gave such figures. And they built them as well. So this is Stonehenge, a Neolithic site near Salisbury, England. It is thought to have been built to measure times and seasons. A labyrinth, too, can be thought of as a mandala. The oldest ones are really difficult to date because they're carved on rocks. They're found mainly around the Mediterranean area, and in particular Galicia in northern Spain and Valcamonica in Italy. One of the oldest datable labyrinths found inscribed on a clay tablet from Philos, Greece, dates back to 1200 BC. We can walk a labyrinth. It can be a metaphor for life's journey and the wholeness we seek. As a symbol, it creates a sacred space which leads us to its heart and then back out again along the same path. On the right is the labyrinth on the floor of Chartres Cathedral, built in the year 1201. Hildegard of Bingen, and this is a modern statue of her. She lived from 1098 to 1179, is one of the most accomplished persons of the entire Middle Ages. And she was admitted to a convent at the age of 8 and was prepared for a life of hermetic devotion and meditation. Around 1135, so age 42, she undertook a series of visionary symbolic paintings in unmistakable mandala-like forms. While she did not make the illustrations herself, it's thought that she oversaw their production. These cosmic memories occur in myth and archetypes that we easily recognize. The pictures were thought to be as strong or stronger than the words themselves. So this is called cultivating the cosmic tree. And central to her mandala paintings is the understanding of a cosmic equilibrium and a reverence for all life. In her use of quartering the circle, so the circle and then this middle section quartered, we recognize the 4 elements: fire, air, water, and earth. Her concept of veritas, or greening, was a precursor to our ecology movement. And she described this power as the agent of God, a divine vitality that was animating life force of all creation. And this greenness was the very expression of divine power on earth. Carl Jung also drew mandalas, a Swiss psychiatrist. Is he a psychiatrist? Yes. I get psychiatrists and psychologists mixed up sometimes. And in studying them, Jung understood that they're like mirrors. They show us something about ourselves that we may not be fully aware of, which he called the self with a capital S. You likely wear a mandala? And we find these great circles of wholeness also in nature, picking up on the 4 seasons. I have a quote from Black Elk, who is an Oglala Lakota elder. Everything an Indian does is in a circle. And that is because the power of the world always works in circles, and everything tries to be round. The sky is round, and I have heard the earth is round like a ball, and so are all the stars. The wind in its greatest power whirls. Birds make their nest in circles, for theirs is the same religion as ours. The sun comes forth and goes down again in a circle. The moon does the same, and both are round. Even the seasons form a great circle in their changing, and always come back again to where they were. Our teepees were round like the nest of birds, and they were always set in a circle, the nation's hoop. Let's see, I've got more here. The moon dies the same, and both are round. Even the seasons form a great circle for their changing. They always come back again where they were. The life of man is a circle from childhood to childhood, and so it is in everything where power moves. We can think the church year as a circle. So colors of the seasons here, although it does not include the longer Celtic Advent up at the top. So the question is, why should we bother making our own mandalas? We're actually inviting a conversation with our deepest self and the wholeness we seek through a mandala. Mandalas can be used for insight and healing as we actively engage in seeking spiritual growth and wholeness. Suzanne Fincher says that the mandala circle mirrors the self as a container for the psyche's striving towards self-realization or wholeness. So these are the stages of the Great Round. This is from the work of Joanne Kellogg. So you don't need to write down anything I'm going to say. It's all going to be on this sheet. So this is the archetype of a spiritual journey. You'll notice down at the bottom, what she calls stage 1, a deep, dreamless sleep. And she's tagged this to the making of a pot, the Great Round, she calls it. So let me read from her book, and it follows all of these stages, 1 through 12. To better understand the Great Round, let us take the example of a familiar activity through each of the 12 stages. This activity is the baking of a pie. The process begins at stage 1 at the bottom of the circle. Our pie maker here is in a deep, dreamless sleep. At stage 2, our pie maker's sleep is not quite so deep. She's having a pleasant dream. Cherries, apples, something fragrant, everything dancing together without an identifiable form. So you'll notice that in the little dream thing, just dancing around. At stage 3, she wakes up and has a vague, undefined, but nonetheless compelling urge to begin something. She knows not what. In stage 4, our pie maker visits her mother at home and learns how her mother bakes brownies. This is enjoyable, but with stage 5, the pie maker stirs up her energy and leaves home, filled with hope and self-doubt, to find her own way. At stage 6, She realized that what she wants to do is to bake pies, and therefore she wants to become a pie maker. Her education begins. She develops skills and she becomes her own person, sorting out her own values, ideas, and desires from what her father and mother like. So you can see the beginnings of that independence. Finally, at stage 7, her preparation is complete. She's trained, she has the tools and ingredients she needs to begin to work as a pie maker. At stage 8, the pie maker is actually doing her work, baking a pie. She's bringing into reality what began as a dream in stage 2. With stage 9, the work is complete. There's a satisfaction of a project fulfilled. But even as she basks in the glow of success, she knows her pie will not last forever. At stage 10, the pleasure is faded, and our pie maker is lost and uncertain what to do next. Stage 11, she has the wisdom to realize that what she must do is cut up the pie, share it with friends, and consume it. In this way, she gets nourishment from the whole process and takes the essence of her experience with her to stage 12. And in stage 12, she looks back with satisfaction over all the events of her pie making. She begins to get sleepy. Soon she'll fall asleep again and dream another dream and begin another passage through the great round. So as you can see from this example, each stage has its own tasks, its own challenges. It's characterized by a distinctive quality of consciousness and by certain feelings. Each stage has its own viewpoint or perspective on reality. And when we find ourselves returning to a stage again, we resonate with all the previous experiences in this stage. We have the opportunity to rework, to realign past experience in light of the present, and to weave the past and present into a harmonious pattern. So that's from Suzanne Fincher's book. And we then cycle through all of these stages and challenges multiple times over and over in our lives. So these stages 1 through 12 have been renumbered, and you might see, so here's the ideas that were scattered in that. Something is beginning to grow. So we'll go around these. So the first one, stage 1, is called the void. It's akin to a fertile black soil of creation. It's a place of darkness. Can't see the potential yet. Stage 2 is called bliss. It's like a baby in its mother's womb with images of spark, possibilities, can't focus on anything. Third stage is a spiral or a labyrinth, the quickening of life, like the breath of God upon the waters. So they're beginning to get an energy, beginning to grasp something. And these stages 1 through 3 are unconscious, anything below this middle line. 4 is a beginning. So something is beginning to come into awareness, conscious awareness. It's like an embryo, a triangle, sprout pushing above the ground. Something's coming forward, not exactly certain what it is. Number 5, a target. So there's this separation, awareness of something is separate. Self is separateness, begins to get a little more focus. See that target moving in to that focus at the center. 6 is called a dragon flight. There's your dragon. Time of inner conflict during which we give birth to a new sense of self. So 6 represents that struggle with the opposite colors in that shape. You can end up here 2 ways, doing a new way or an old way. There's some measure of conflict usually. And I'm going to show you some real examples from my life so to make it real, and then we'll work on something of our own. I have a method. We can do it. Number 7 is squaring the circle, a time to learn, to plan and love, to be on top of the world, so to speak, kind of like a high noon. The newness has been birthed, and what seemed irreconcilable or opposites coming from that 6 shape is come together in a new way. It was unimaginable before. And then it's full awareness in consciousness. So it's arrived. Number 8, I talk about as the functioning ego. A clearer sense of self is developed. It can be the 5-pointed human form, and it's you embodying what's come forward, and you've stepped out into the world with it. Number 9 is a crystallization. That's that feeling of satisfaction, harmony, fulfillment. You bring it into the world and it's in full bloom. 10 is called the gates of death. The connection between the ego and the self gets a little more distant. Naturally happening on a journey. After something is bloomed, it begins to fade. And the fullness and usefulness of it is no longer needed. With 11, fragmentation, the dark night of the soul, there's a confusion, the flower disintegrates. What is old is breaking up, it's no longer serving you. There's space for transformation. And with 12, I call it transcendental ecstasy. It's returning home, able to give the gift of grace, getting ready to start again. So this here is understood as a map, multiple dimensions of one's life. One is different issues and things that are going on in one's life will come out within these drawings. So let's take an example from my own life. I'm going to turn this off because I think you'll be able to see it better. So the overall shape here is of the 10. That, I'm going to click back to that. This bit here, but turned, or like that 10. Can you see that in there? Notice the downward triangle. So something is near the end of its natural cycle. But there are also many stage 3 elements. Notice all these spirals on this tree. That it was just filled with spirals. Right. And there's spirals on the outer blue circle as well, sort of twirly jig things. So there's elements of stage 5 too, in the sense of that blue thing on the outside and the target in the middle. So my role was then to ponder this, see if I could find them and decide how to help whatever is along. This drawing was done several weeks later. Is a clear line down the middle, right? Stage 6, inner conflict, or that half on one side, half on the other. And this was several weeks later, and that's a clear stage 10. The center circle appeared as sparkling gold, and I'll talk a little bit about color later. So let's put these all in a row. several things were happening in my life, and they can actually be seen in these drawings. So the first mandala was created just over 2 weeks after completing radiation treatment for breast cancer. Indeed, something was finishing and something new was starting. The second mandala was completed in the midst of working on a new understanding of the concept of salvation. The two halves appear as new ideas. Something's being birthed. I was reading things, new things. The third mandala was completed again, probably a couple of months after the others. And the single phrase, Personal Salvation Project, in a book by Richard Rohr, who was quoting Thomas Merton, snapped this concept of salvation and a deep personal loss for me into a focus that allowed for the death of that loss. So I just thought it would be, compared to the mandalas that I showed, these are pretty primitive, right? But we can do this kind of thing. So what I am going to do, I can put this down, I guess. I'm going to stop the share. Now, you here have a choice. I do have, I'll turn the light on in a moment. I'll leave it off for a bit. I have white or black paper. White. White. Oh, okay. White, black, black. Yeah. I have to be the rebel. I have no idea how well the markers will work on that, but the pencil should be fine. If you want something thicker, there's those markers. So I have a meditative kind of thing that I'm going to read. And in the process, towards the end of it, we'll allow what you have crafted in your mind to be put on paper. So I invite you, if you feel safe, to close your eyes or at least soften them. And just take a moment to breathe. I invite you to place your hand on your heart, to feel it beating. Just feel it. Be aware of your body, that you are a body with a soul. The soul has a body. It's all one, not separate. Keeping your eyes closed or softened, I invite you to lift a hand in the air. You could try either your dominant or your non-dominant hand. And allow this hand to begin either with a hand or a finger to draw a circle. Feel the roundness of that circle. A mandala is both a center and a circumference, so you can find that center by circling in or just going there. And you can go back out again. You can switch directions if you'd like. Do the circumference again. Feel the roundness of it. And an invitation to embody this mandala of wholeness. Inside the circle, let your hand draw imaginary shapes. Just into the circle, just let your hand go where it needs to go. Follow your body's impulses rather than your mind. Just let your hand draw. You feel yourself drawing curves or softly flowing lines, zigzags, spirals, straight lines. What wants to go into that circle? Continue to draw in the air in silence. If you wish, you can try switching your hands. Let it draw while the other one, maybe your hands want to draw together. When you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes. In front of you are all the materials you need: paper, pencils, something to draw with. Remember the moving of your hands, because moving is drawing and drawing is moving. And allow yourself to go with that movement. Stay with your body. Invite the stranger within to let itself be known. The color, the shape, what resonates. Is there resistance? If there is, get curious about it and wander into it. Open up the colors. Which one is calling to you? What color and shape wants to be present? So I invite you to take the next 10 minutes or so to actually draw into that circle. What needs to come forward? And if you're drawing and something's coming forward that's new, let it come. And if you need, go back to the air and draw some too, if you need. Whatever color and shape wants to be there, let it be. Do you prefer the light on or off? On? Off? On. On. On, yeah. Okay, close your eyes, folks. I can turn on.